Welcome to Objections with Stan Willis. I'm Michael Morris with my good friend, probably best friend in the entire world, C. Stanley Willis. Stan, how are you, my friend?
I'm your best friend in the whole world.
Well, when we're doing the show. When I do a show with other people, I say they're my best.
I'm speechless. I'm touched.
You should be touched.
I can't. I don't know if I'll be able to go on. I'm just.
Well, speaking of being touched,
can we take a minute? I'm very emotional.
Oh, do you want to take like a moment of silence?
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I was going to say,
I'll get over it.
Speaking of being touched and can't go on, the Jesse Smollett trial is going on. And just so we can refresh people's memory, because they might not be paying attention, young Mr. Smollett said he was attacked by two white men wearing MAGA hats that were screaming Empire N-word at him. This was mocked by Dave Chappelle really well. So if you want to kind of know what's going on, he went out to get a Subway sandwich at 2:00 in the morning, and it was minus 10 degrees, and he walked there. He was jumped by people that were Republicans, apparently. And when the cops came, they found him with a noose askew on his neck, covered in bleach, and some bruises where he couldn't identify the assailants. So our good friend, Jim Biden, running for office, Kamala Harris, Kim Fox, the prosecutor in Chicago, and Obama said this is a modern day lynching. The cops aren't taking this seriously. And our good friend, a man that I consider a mentor, Don Lemon, intervenes and is texting with Jesse saying the Chicago cops are not taking you seriously. So the investigation kind of drops. But he, through the media, starts making a bigger deal out of this, like these racist attacks, and then goes on with Robin Roberts on ABC detailing this event. And now the cops have to act. So when the cops find out that this is a hoax, they send him a bill for the investigation for over $120,000, expecting him to pay.
Sounds about right.
So the good thing is you got basically caught, just pay the bill, walk away. No, he's not doing that shit. He's going to amp it up and say the cops are racist. So then the cops say, okay, now we're going to drag you to jail. Kim Fox steps in, Kamala Harris steps in. He doesn't go to jail, but now he's got a court case. And I forgot all about this. I thought this had all gone away. So now in the case, the two brothers, and I mean, they are two brothers, not two brothers. Mm-hmm. Well, they're also brothers that staged the attack with him now have shown evidence that they practiced the attack the day before. They have a $3,500 canceled check that he wrote them to go buy the supplies to pull this thing off. And then, of course, they have detailed everything they did leading up to trying to leave the country so they wouldn't get caught. So my question to you, Stan, is how innocent is Jesse Smollett based on what I just said?
Well, I don't think he's very innocent at all. And, these things are confusing to me. What's the point of doing all this stuff in the first place?
Oh, the hoax?
Do we really think that... what other than his trying to get 15 minutes of fame and getting some play in the tabloids, what's he hoping to get out of this at the end of the day?
The point of the case originally was Lee Daniels is the executive producer of a show called Empire, which has since gone away. Uh-huh. At the time, it was Fox's biggest it was a takeoff of was it Macbeth? Of a Shakespearean thing, but they just updated to be they were hip hop artists and that kind of thing. But it was like the Lion family was what they were.
Right.
And he was the gay son on the show.
Okay.
So I thought, what a brave move for this heterosexual guy not to realize that, oh, he is gay. That's how he got that.
Yeah.
So his issue was Lee Daniels had made a comment that he was putting on weight. Mm-hmm. And he said, you look puffy when you're up there. So he gets all in a tizzy and his skirt gets ripped. So he sends a letter, I don't know, like a jigsaw kind of letter, like I cut a bunch of letters out, sends mail saying that they're threatening his life and all that. Well, they find out he's the one that did it. So what happens is they get the thing at the studio and they just go, yeah, we got this letter, whatever. So he gets irate at the fact that no one cares about my safety, even though I sent this as a like, obviously you can't take this seriously. Like who even knows who he is? Mm-hmm. So when this attack happens, he mentions that there were death threats on him before. So obviously someone wants to get him. Now, I was probably the only person, let's just say, in my demo watching that show because I thought, this is cool. The music is cool, all that. And I like the guy that blew up his deal with the Iron Man, Terrence Howard. Yeah. He could have been in 25 movies. Instead, he wanted more money. And so now he's doing TV. So
everyone's going to make a living.
So now we have the public humiliation because this, I don't know how to say it in French, asshole takes the stand in his own defense.
It sounded French.
I think it is. And he starts to say that it is a racially motivated hate crime, but that the cops are racist towards him and they won't investigate this. I want to know, I already know how I'd feel about it if I was prosecuting this case. I'm an expert. But if you are the one that guy's saying this kind of thing on the stand.
I think if I'm the prosecutor at this point, I'm just trying to stick him with as much as I can possibly stick him with.
Jesus. Oh, charges.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clarify.
With charges, with the many crimes.
Thank you. Well, don't stop short because you almost went right in that door.
I see many Christmas. So I think as a prosecutor, you got to be looking at this and saying, this guy's had every chance to back off of what is obviously a not even very good hoax. I mean, honestly, if you're gonna do a hoax, do it better. Right. I mean,
well, you're an actor. You know other actors. Why are you asking guys from your gym?
Right.
I wouldn't ask guys from my gym to help me move a sofa, let alone plan a crime.
Right. And so, he puts together a hoax that's not even a very good hoax, following up on another hoax that's not a very good hoax. Then you give him an opportunity to just buy out of it and say, you know what, let's all just walk away from this, pay the bill for the investigation. We won't press charges. Sounds like a pretty good deal to me. But then he ups the ante again. I mean, this is a guy that's just, I mean, there's no common sense. There's no thinking going on at all in this whole situation for him. He's just, I'm just going to hit harder. I'm going to push harder. It's kind of, it goes back to what we were talking about a few weeks ago. We were talking about how the whole woke thing on the left is, it's more like a religious cult than it is like a political or social organization. It's more like a religious cult because there's no. It's this blind belief that whatever I say or whatever these people are saying is truth, no matter how intellectually incongruent the things that are being said are. I'm just going to believe all this stuff, and I'm going to do all this stuff because it's my religion.
Right.
And it sounds to me like Jesse Smalls just. Or however you say his name, is just buying into this whole weird left kind of religious thing that's going on. Do you
think that he thinks he's untouchable because he has such high-powered friends? I mean, this is different. Once you get on a public stage like this, like you're in the court system, right? You're not in the court of public opinion. So I don't know that your high-powered friends can get you out of where you're at now.
I don't think so. I don't even think that. I mean, the prosecutor who was originally on his side now has political pressure in the opposite direction.
Right.
I mean, now, in the initial, when it first started, her political pressure was to support him. Right. But as more and more things are coming out, the political pressure that she's getting is no longer, we got to get this guy out of this. It's now, we really got to not look like idiots here.
But do they step away or do they turn and go based on what we're hearing now? Because when they first asked Kamala Harris within like 12 hours, because I remember waking up and I don't get on Twitter for many reasons, but I remember I was looking for something else and I just saw his name trending and I'm like, what's going on? You could just read this and go, who would attack him? I mean, that's like me attacking your secretary down there because she might be on a TV show or something.
Right.
No one knows who he is if he's walking around. So it's a great story to get behind because they put a lot of media spin on this and look what's happened to this poor child. Mm-hmm. And now when they asked, Kamala Harris won't even comment on it.
Well, of course not, because at this point, I mean, even the prosecutor was initially in his corner. I mean, the prosecutor is initially saying this is a bad thing, but she brought the charges. I mean, if I'm him, I'm thinking, huh.
See, that's the part that.
But that's what I'm saying. It's this kind of religious fervor. It's this belief that I'm doing the right thing, even if you're doing what you're doing is the stupid thing, and you don't get to that level. You don't get to that level in political discourse, and I mean, it's just this weird. It's a weird construct. I don't even know how to. I mean, it's one of those things you can't even really argue with, right?
Right.
Because it doesn't matter that what you say makes sense and is based in fact, because it's just a belief, right?
What this reminds me of in some way, and you're going to go, how are you making that link? Ted Bundy. When Ted Bundy was so sure that he didn't do what he admitted to before he died, I'm going to represent myself. That's how sure I am. Like, get out of the way. I don't need your help. He was so sure of it. That's how I feel I feel like when you're in that 1% club, like you're on television, you're in movies, whatever it is, and you've got these big people backing you. I don't think that you see that they've kind of taken their foot off the gas and they're getting away from you because you think you're in this club and you're untouchable. I feel like he took the stand in his own defense to be like, you guys are messing this all up. Let me do it. The details of what he brought out was worse than what anybody would have even spoken about. They didn't even know. And he's up there, like when you're reading about it, he's smirking and smiling about it. And I just think he doesn't get it yet. Like, you're falling and they've taken the net down, an hour ago. If you're the prosecutor, do you just let this guy keep talking? I mean, I think the defense is up as we're speaking now, but I think they're expecting a judgment in a week or so. How is he going to get out? And the question is, will he do any time at all? Because he's a celebrity.
He probably actually won't do any time. He'll probably get probation or something. Maybe that's why he's pushed. Maybe that's why he's continuing to push his narrative. I mean, maybe at the end he's looking at this and he's going, well, if I get the worst I can get, so what? So I'm on probation for a little while. Maybe he doesn't care about that. I mean, and ultimately, I guess sometimes in some worlds, it used to be, I remember back in the 70s and 60s when all the protests were going on, I was watching this on TV as a kid. I wasn't participating in it, but it was almost like the ones that got arrested, and got convicted of something that was like a badge of honor for them.
Right.
Like, I've taken one for the cause. So maybe that's what he's thinking. Maybe he's taking one for the cause here by just continuing to double down on all this stuff. Maybe that's.
Well, I think part of the problem was he was taking one for the cause.
Well, and maybe he's just trying to impress Don Lemon. Maybe he wants their relationship to be closer.
Yeah. Let's bring that up. So the Don Lemon thing, what I found out was that got brought up because they were going through his text messages. And he's on the stand and says, they said, why are you texting with Don Lemon? Because he told me keep in mind, Don Lemon is not in Chicago. Fair?
Right.
Let's set this up. He's not down the street. He doesn't work at the police station. He's texting him and saying, they're not taking you seriously. So you got to amp it up. Why is Don Lemon involved at all? Because he's a Lily? And that's a big club?
I don't think it's that. I think Don Lemon's involved because it's a story. And the story fits the narrative that Don Lemon wants to push. So
he couldn't stop saying. They said lynching more than they do at a Klan rally.
Right.
The media could not stop saying it, which leads me back to, if you report something and you got it that wrong, they never apologize. Remember when the newspaper would put, we made a mistake on this story and they buried it on page 37, but we did print it. In television news, they don't ever say that they were wrong.
No.
But people continue to watch it. I told you this story. I have a really good friend that says that the Hunter Biden laptop story is a QAnon thing. And even though CNN and MSNBC reported it's up to 3 laptops and she watches MSNBC, she says that's not true. I think that's part of the problem is we no longer can separate fact and fiction.
Well, the media's kind of done that to us, right? because the media just runs fact and fiction together. And honestly, I mean, it was already headed that way. It was already headed that way under Bush, and then it got a little
that's
bit,
from the last show.
I mean, George W. And it was also then, I think it ramped up a little bit under Obama, just because of the Obama, especially in his first term, not so much in his second term, but in his first term, nobody criticized Obama. I'm sorry, but if you're the media, it's your job to freaking criticize the president. It can't be possible that everything the president does is perfectly okay with you.
But you still can't criticize Obama because you're a racist if you say anything.
Well, in his second term, that kind of lightened up a little bit, I think. In his
skin?
No, in his second term, I think that the news media got a little bit more confident about criticizing him and some of his policies, especially as had to do with Syria and some of the domestic policies that he did. I think they got a little bit more serious about criticizing. But when Trump got elected, the media actually, there were several people in the media who publicly said, we are no longer unbiased.
Right.
We can no longer be unbiased. Well, how can you be the news media? How can you be a journalist and be unbiased?
But the worst part is, how can you be unbiased? How can you watch it?
How can you watch what?
If you're watching and you know what you're watching is
just an opinion
it's
piece?
Propaganda.
Right.
If you know that, I'll have this conversation with my mom when I feel like talking to her. If you watch the news and everything they say agrees with your viewpoints, it's not the news. You have got to find different.
I would agree with that. I would agree with wholeheartedly.
Because here, the news is this building is on fire. The news is not Trump is the worst thing that could happen in 2024 to Republicans. It is 2021 right now. That's not news. That's opinion. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to base an entire network on this opinion and do it every single day.
The news is Trump signed this bill this day. Biden signed this bill this day. But that's not what we get from like CNN. They're back when the cabinet was being appointed, the whole media was just going on about this is the most diverse cabinet ever, and we love this. Just tell me who he picked and why he picked them. I don't need your opinion about whether it's good or bad. I want to make a decision about whether I think it's good or bad. I may agree with you. I may think it's great, but if you're the news, if you're a journalist, you're telling me what happened. Now, there are some of them that write op-eds and opinion pieces and stuff like that, and that's fine. But I want the problem is you used to be able to tell when you were reading an opinion piece. Well, because
it would say an op-ed,
right,
or say opinion. Right. It literally would say that.
You used to know that, so you used to know. Okay, I like this. I want to see what this guy has to say. I want to see what his opinion is. But you didn't have to think that every time you watch the news broadcast. Right. Where now, and it's on both sides. I mean, I don't really spend the time. What I tend to do is I'll look at like MSNBC and read the headlines, and I'll look at Fox and read the headlines, and I figure they're both kind of jaded somewhere. So probably somewhere in the middle is what happened, and I move on. I don't spend a lot of time with the big news agencies because they're not interested in necessarily getting you facts. They're interested in convincing you of their opinion. Well,
it's also to get clicks or viewership. Right. At the end of the day, I always tell people that radio, television, none of this exists for your entertainment. It exists to get you to watch commercials, to get you to target your behavior, to get you to sit still. And I think people don't understand, like, movies are different. Movies are art. I don't care if it's the worst movie you ever saw. There is no break. What
is the worst movie you ever saw?
Oh, shit. I've seen a lot of them.
I don't remember that movie.
What was that movie, Nate, that I had you make the movie? In the Heights. Holy shit.
That bad?
Let me tell you my problem with it. Okay. You've got 4 different Hispanic groups, and my family, my mom and her family are all from Puerto Rico, so I'm just going to tell you this. When you see stereotypes, you're like, that's bullshit. That's not really... Some of those stereotypes are true. Mm-hmm. But when you see 4 different people from 4 different Spanish countries and they're in New York and they want to leave to go back home, I can tell you that shit right now is not true.
Really?
All they're talking about how they're being held down. Now, I know when the play is like 3 hours long or whatever, you're trying to put this. I thought this movie was 7 hours long. Turns out it was barely 2 hours. It's that painful. It's that bad. Mm-hmm. But as I tell Nate all the time when we talk about film, that Lin-Manuel Noriega guy, he is a one-note guy. Everything has got to be Broadway type songs, and it's always oppression. Mm-hmm. And that's what bothers me is, but again, you could learn something from it, but I think you'd learn more from West Side Story than you will learn from.
Well, they do that clicking thing with the little.
That's how I know danger is coming.
Yeah.
That and the hissing and all that. Whenever I see a man that has like penny loafers on, but he's shuffling around and he has jeans on, I know that guy's going to do some serious damage.
Really?
I mean, it hasn't happened in a while.
Is that the way that gang fights play out in New York? They come in and they click at each other and hit?
You know, the question I have is, where do so many people get the same blade? There's like 30 guys dancing, they all have the same blade. Wouldn't you be asking questions like, boys, are you
they
a gang?
go to the local gang fight store and they all, I mean, he only carries one blade there.
Wouldn't it be amazing if that's all he sells? That and chips.
It's
like, what do you got? I got some ruffles and I got blades. I will take those flaming hot ones and I'll take a blade.
Excuse me.
Nate, how much time do we have? Because okay,
you were making a point before I interrupted you about movies.
Oh, movies are. My point is that movies are an expression of more of an art form, even if it whatever it is, because it's got to tell you a narrative. It has to. Mm-hmm. You have the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. You have a payoff. Television doesn't work that way. Mm-mm. Television is there to evoke. All it's trying to do is get your attention. Mm-hmm. That's all it's ever tried to do, to get you to sit there. That's why kids' TV shows were brought to you by cigarette companies, because 9 out of 10 doctors would say that smoking these unfiltered, right?
Phineas and Ferb is the best show on television, by the way.
Debatable, but it's up there. I'll give you that one. Give Stan a point for bringing that up, and negative 10 points for not knowing In the Heights. But if you look at it, if you listen to any content, it is all driven by how much advertising revenue can I get out of this. And that's the problem with CNN, NBC. You cannot criticize any of the medications treated for vaccine because Pfizer's their number one client. Mm-hmm. What's the one? You know why Big Oil advertises? Why do you see BP commercials and all these other gas companies advertise? Because they're part of the military industrial complex. Mm-hmm. You can't say anything about oil. That's why when gas prices go up, it's not the fault of the gas companies. It is the president of the United States. And when gas prices are at an all-time low, the president gets credit for it. At the end of the day, why are you advertising? Because we need gasoline. There's different food places you can go, but
it's not like everybody's going to stop driving.
No, and the prices are pretty much the same. It is, which one do you go to? And at the end of the day, it's all coming from the same 3 places. You know, the gas price to get that gas cut. Do you know where we got it from? Because we're not energy independent anymore. So we're worried about Russia invading Ukraine. We got oil from them.
He released like 50 million barrels, though.
Yeah, that was good enough for 3 days.
For 3 days, well, probably not even 3 days, but we are getting some oil. We are getting some oil from Russia.
Right. At the same time, we're threatening Russia.
You know, it's all political crap.
Enjoy the show, kids, because that's all it is. Mm-hmm. Not this show. I mean, hopefully you got something out of it.
It's all political crap.
Yeah. Join us next week when we'll just do more political crap. You've been listening to Objections with Stan Willis.